another episode of Nexus Television. Today we're going to talk a little bit about hip mobility. I've got Dan here today. We're going to go through our usual sequencing if we've asked you to perform hip mobility drills. He's starting in a quadruped position, just hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and he's just got his toes out of the way for now. What you're going to do is you're going to push up into a yoga position called down dog. So I want you just to tuck those toes, then you see how he's pushing the ground away. We can even have a little bend in the knees if those hamstrings are a little tight, and he can drop that chest through between his shoulder blades. Okay, now he's going to transition from that position through into cobra. And he's squeezing into his glutes. See that nice spine position, looking up at the ceiling, all the time pushing the ground away. Another option he could do is drop those knees to the ground as he transitions through and squeeze, just to give those hips a little bit more support. Good. Now back to quadruped position. A couple of options here. If we don't quite have the upper body strength to perform that transitional movement from underneath, Dan could move his hands a little bit further forward and then tuck the toes, push back up into that down dog position, and then transition through. It just makes that transition through into this position a little bit easier. That is down dog. Then we're going to go into, from that position, Dan, just bring that leg forward. We're going to go into an elongated lunge position. That rear leg is nice and straight that you can see. It's got the knee at 90 degrees in the front. Both hands are on the same side as the leg that's back. So he's got both hands on the inside of that right knee. From that position, he's going to go into a little bit of rotation. So bring that right arm up. And he's really opening up through the chest and shoulder here. Take a nice couple of breaths there, Dan. Good. You see that nice straight line too, from that left arm all the way up through to the right hand there, and then go into a little bit of internal rotation on that shoulder. Doing this is going to allow Dan to turn a little bit further through the thoracic spine and really open up through there. Good job. And then come back. We want to know that we own this position. You see that nice elongated position. Dan's going to come up and really sit into that elongated position, get a good stretch through the hips, and he's really working hard on that left leg. Okay? Then down, and if you could just face the camera down, that'd be great. He's going to stay in that elongated position, but he's going to move his left arm out a ways, and he's going to take his right hand, just place it on top of his foot, his elbow's on the inside of that right knee. And this is really good for opening up the hip. Dan, if you just rock forward as you push out with that elbow, he's got a good stable left shoulder, and he's just using that to support his upper body as he pushes forward and out. Another option, Dan, just place the hand on the knee and just push through. Note, whatever movement he chooses to use, whatever feels better for you, that right foot has stayed in contact with the ground. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of ankle mobility work in there along with the hip. And again, same as that elongated position before, he's got that nice long back leg. From here, we'll just transition through into a little bit of abduction. So we're going to stretch those adductors. Good, nice and tall. So right now, Dan, just show where you're feeling the stretch.
Little anterior on the stance hip, much more through upper groin.
Perfect. Good. So we're continuing to work that. Now what I want him to do, he's going to stay with his chest nice and tall, nice neutral spine. I just want him to sit back through that left hip. He's going to sit, get the hands to the ground, and increase that stretch. And now we're going to just drive through that left glute, come tall again. Good, back into that starting position. We might perform 5 to 10 of these, where he's just transitioning through nice and slowly. Just a couple more. Good. Once he's done those, obviously we're using both sides. We're just showing you the one side at the moment, but we'll do both sides. Dan, come up into the bench slide position. We'll come up off the ground. So he's taking a nice wide stance. He's actually getting a stretch now through both hips. Hands are on the ground for Dan right at the moment, and I just want you to show what we will do. So he's just rocking onto his left leg and then transferring that over through onto the right leg, getting a stretch on that opposite side each time he transitions through. Dan, do you want to grab the kettlebell? So obviously if you have a little bit of trouble getting all the way to the ground, Dan's pretty flexible, we can use a kettlebell. So Dan, you can just slide that kettlebell over, perfect, and he's actually pushing down into the kettlebell and doing that same movement, and then he'll transfer over to the other side. Good. So that's just lifted his chest. It's obviously taken some of the stress off, and he's doing that. You can use, we have a medicine ball that we'll use. Same thing, pushing down into the ground. It's just basically a new base of support for him. You can use anything, a yoga block, a box, whatever you need to do to feel that stretch through the leg and enable yourself to transition through. That right there is hip mobility.